second place to gain the first. I choose the second place to gain the first. What seems to be the second place is first. For what things we perceive are upside down until we listen to the voice. Until we listen to the voice for God. Listen to the voice for God. It seems that we will gain autonomy, but by our striving to be separate, and that our independence from the rest of God's creation is the way in which salvation is obtained. Yet all we find is sickness, suffering, and loss and death. This is not what our Father wills, for us. Nor is there any second to His will, no second to His will. To join with His is but to find my own, And since our will is His, it is to Him we must go. It is to Him that we must go to recognize our will. It is to Him that we must go to recognize our will. I choose the second place to gain the first. I choose the second place to gain the first. There is no will but yours. There is no will but yours. And I am glad that nothing I imagine contradicts what you would have me be. It is your will that I be holy, safe, eternally at peace. And happily I share that will which you, my Father, gave as part of me. And happily I share that will which you, my Father, gave as part of me. I choose the second place to gain the first. I choose the second place to gain the first. I choose the second place to gain the first. Well, what's that all about? Doesn't that remind us a lot of what Jesus had told us back in Matthew and Mark? We'll read it in just a minute. But before we do, let's just look at this. And thanks for joining me. I'm Forgiveness Willie, here, teacher of forgiveness and miracles here in the Ozarks. We're reading from the Foundation for Inner Peace version of A Course in Miracles this year, here on Saturday, November 23rd of 2024, lesson 328. I choose the second place to gain the first. What seems to be the second place is first. For all things we perceive are upside down until we listen to the voice for God. It seems that we will gain autonomy, but by our striving to be separate, and that our independence from the rest of God's creation is the way in which salvation is obtained. Yet all we find is sickness, suffering, and loss, and death. This is not what our Father wills for us. He doesn't will sickness, suffering, loss, and death. Nor is there any second to His will. To join with His is but to find our own will. And since our will is His, it is to Him that we must go to recognize our will. It's this idea is why I decided to go by the name Will instead of Bill many years ago. I choose the second place to gain the first. There is no will but yours, and I am glad that nothing I imagine contradicts what you would have me be. It is your will that I be wholly safe, eternally at peace. And happily I share that will which you, my Father, gave as part of me. I choose the second place to gain the first. And I said we were going to take a look at a couple Bible verses. Let me just give you the quick of it. In Mark chapter 10, verse 35 through 45, you might want to read that. It's when James and John came to Jesus. They were the sons of Zebedee, and they wanted to sit on his right hand and his left hand. And Jesus, I think he probably chuckled about it. And he said, whoever will be great among you shall be servant, and whoever is chiefest shall be servant of all. He said that's how you end up getting a higher place, is by being the servant of all. He said they were all having an argument who was going to be the greatest in the kingdom. And it continued on a little bit. There's another story about that in Matthew. That was out of Mark 10. The verse in particular that I read was verse 43 and 44. Matthew 20, verses 1 through 16, you might want to read about when Jesus hired some people or he was telling the story about a farmer who hired some people to work in the vineyard early in the morning, told me he'd pay him a certain amount for the day. And then he hired people throughout the day, and at the end of the day, he paid them all the same amount. And the guys were disgruntled that they worked all day. And he said, well, I paid you what I told you I'd pay you. Can't I give some people a blessing? And then he ends by saying in verse 16, the first shall be last, and the last shall be first. God's way of looking at things. Anyway, let's go take a look at the associated reading for today's lesson. I choose the second place to gain the first. What is creation? Creation is the sum of all God's thoughts, in number infinite and everywhere without all limit. Only love creates, and only like itself. There was no time when all that it created was not there, nor will there be a time when anything that it created suffers any loss. Forever and forever are God's thoughts exactly as they were and as they are, unchanged through time and after time is done. God's thoughts are given all the power that their own Creator has, for He would add to love by its extension. Thus His Son shares in creation and must therefore share in power to create. What God has willed to be forever one will still be one when time is over, and will not be changed throughout the course of time, remaining as it was before the thought of time began. Creation is the opposite of all illusions, for creation is the truth. Creation is the Holy Son of God, for in creation is His will complete in every aspect, making every part container of the whole. Its oneness is forever guaranteed inviolate, forever held within His holy will, beyond all possibility of harm, of separation, imperfection, or any spot upon its sinlessness. We are creation, we the sons of God. We seem to be discreet and unaware of our eternal unity with Him. Yet back of all our doubts, past all our fears, there still is certainty. For love remains with all its thoughts, its sureness being theirs. God's memory is in our holy minds, which know their oneness and their unity with their Creator. Let our function be only to let this memory return, only to let God's will be done on earth, only to be restored to sanity, and to be but as God created us. Our Father calls to us, we hear His voice, and we forgive creation in the name of its Creator, holiness itself, whose holiness His own creation shares, whose holiness is still a part of us. You are love, the way you were made. You still are. Okay, let's go look in our Manual for Teachers reading for today. And we finished Manual for Teachers yesterday, and we're ready for the next little section this week. It will be clarification of terms. Let's start with the introduction. Keep along with you all day today. Do your longer meditation in the morning and in the evening, where you enter into the silence and tell yourself, I choose the second place to gain the first. And hang out for a few minutes, take 5, 10, 15 minutes in the morning and again in the evening. And then throughout the day, take a minute just to kind of bring your attention back to the idea. Give God thanks for something. And remind yourself, I need to choose second place. I need to be the servant of all. That's what our job is in this planet. That's what love does. That's what God does. Okay. And ask for direction during those hourly pauses. Have a holy instant. Takes as long as you can, even on those moments. Okay, but this is a practical book, remember? So whatever's practical, that's what you do. If it makes your life work more practical, well, then that's probably the right thing to do. I say probably. You still want to ask Holy Spirit. Okay, introduction. This is not a course in philosophical speculation, nor is it concerned with precise terminology. It is concerned only with atonement, or the correction of perception. Now we have a real good definition for the atonement. The correction of perception. The means of the atonement is forgiveness, okay? There we go. The correction of perception by what? Practicing forgiveness towards every person, place, thing, and situation, till you can see the beauty of it, till you can see the love of it, you can see the God of it, see the goodness in it. The means of atonement is forgiveness. The structure of individual consciousness is essentially irrelevant because it is a concept representing the, in quotes, original error or the original sin. Since we use those terms, he put them in quotes. Those are not terms that he would normally use. There's no original sin, is what he's trying to say. But people use the term. So he's saying the original sin was when you forgot to forgive. So return to forgiveness. When you made a judgment, basically. When you thought that there was a need that wasn't fulfilled. That's what needs forgiveness. To study the error itself does not lead to correction. If you are indeed to succeed in overlooking the error. Okay, we don't want to study the error. We want to overlook it. It's a nothing. It has no effects. And it is just this process of overlooking at which the Course aims. Teaching us to overlook error. Not to identify it and make it real. Paragraph 2. All terms are potentially controversial. All terms are potentially controversial. And those who seek controversy will find it. Yet those who seek for clarification will find it as well. They must, however, be willing to overlook controversy, recognizing that it is a defense against truth in the form of a delaying maneuver. A delaying maneuver. Theological considerations as such are necessarily controversial, since they depend on belief and can therefore be accepted or rejected. A universal theology is impossible, but a universal experience is not only possible, but necessary. If we're to survive, we have to have that universal experience where we all recognize that we're loved and we've experienced that love and we see it in each other. That's what the world's headed to. That's our next great awakening. A universal theology is impossible, but a universal experience is not only possible, but necessary. It is this experience towards which the Course is directed. Here alone consistency becomes possible, because here alone uncertainty ends. Paragraph 3. This Course remains within the ego framework, where it is needed. And the ego framework is where we're studying. It is not concerned with what is beyond all error, because it is planned only to set the direction towards that area where there's no error. Therefore, it uses words which are symbolic and cannot express what lies beyond symbols. It is merely the ego that questions, because it is only the ego that doubts. It is merely the ego that questions, because it is only the ego that doubts. The Course merely gives another answer once a question has been raised. However, this answer does not attempt to resort to inventiveness or ingenuity. However, this answer does not attempt to resort to inventiveness or ingenuity. These are attributes of the ego. The course is simple, and that's italicized. I think he wants us to remember that. The course is simple. It has one function and one goal. Only in that does it remain wholly consistent, because only that can be consistent. The one goal, to practice forgiveness, the key to happiness. Paragraph 4. The ego will demand many answers that this course does not give. It does not recognize as questions the mere form of a question to which an answer is impossible. The ego may ask, how did the impossible occur? To what did the impossible happen? And may ask this in many forms. Yet there is no answer, only an experience. Only an experience. Yet there is no answer, only an experience. Seek only this experience, and do not let theology delay you. And the last paragraph, 5. You will notice that the emphasis on structural issues in the course is brief and early. Afterwards and soon it drops away to make way for the central teaching. Since you have asked for clarification, however, these are some of the terms that are used. So the first one we'll study tomorrow will be mind, spirit. Okay, let's see. I choose the second place to gain the first. I hope that you get a real inspiration of being a servant. You know, just look for areas where you can help your brothers and sisters, and just be busy about your Father's business. It's choosing the second place to gain the first. Okay, let's see. What is going on around the world today? It's St. Clement's Day. St. Clement's is, he was Pope Clement the First. Not sure when he was Pope or saint or whatever. It seems like I want to say about 16th century, but I'm not sure about that. I know that he's the metal worker and blacksmith's patron saint, and so today's the metal worker and blacksmith's feast day. So have a feast today if you're a metal worker, honoring St. Clement Day. Dr. Who Day, those kids' books, Dr. Who. Eat a Cranberry Day, the Vaccinium, that same genus as the blueberries. The macrocarpon is the American one, and the oxycoccus is the European one. Family Volunteer Day. You might as well teach your kids to be volunteers, to work, to be doing the work of God. It's called karma yoga, when you work off your karma by just doing selfless service. That's what our lesson today is all about. I choose the second place to gain the first. A bunch of karma yogis we're making it here, huh? Might make your whole family karma yogis. That's a good thing to do. Go serve somebody. Go serve some people. Don't forget to, don't be sure to take some time to do something for other people as a family. When you're training kids, take some time to go do something good for other people. Without pay. Fibonacci Day. You remember the Fibonacci sequence? It's 0 plus 1 equals 1. 1 plus 1 equals 2. 1 plus 2 equals 3. 2 plus 3 equals 5. 5 plus 3 equals 8. You see the sequence? You take the last number, add it to the next number, and it makes a spiral. The Fibonacci sequence is a Fibonacci spiral. You've maybe seen that in nature. Different things like seems like little snails maybe do that. Anyway, International Aura Awareness Day. Some people can see auras, and that's just one of the many things that we'll probably all end up seeing in time. We'll be able to see what we're blind to right now, which is what's going on all around the world all the time. Image Consultant Day. I was thinking about I probably need an image consultant so I can figure what my name is and how to get these videos out to more people, because I'd love for a lot of people to start waking up with this information. So if you guys have an idea how I can do better on my image, Let me know. My email's in the description below, and be sure to put ACIM class in the text, and I'll be sure to look at it. Okay, Survivors of Suicide Day, and we all are survivors of suicide. There's no one that dies that doesn't continue living. Adoption Day, Cashew Day, the Anacardium occidentally, Espresso Day, Wolfnut, or is it Wolfhoot? Wolfnut, which is a New Zealand holiday. The spirit of the wolf and the kindness of dogs are celebrated. And then out of Seed Savers Exchange, we've got another, I'm just kind of going through the cold weather plants right now. And this one I wanted to look at today is, oh boy, we got to find it. I didn't mark it good. Sorry about that. It's a Brassica sativa. Oh, where's it at? Brassica sativa. Apollo. Okay, I'm having a hard time finding it. I don't know where I, give me just a minute. Apollo. Oh, here we go. Apollo. Brassica diversity. I thought this was interesting. From kale to cauliflower, many gardeners would be surprised to learn that one genus provides us with more than 14 food crops. All the following are the family known as brassicas. Arugula, Asian greens, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, cauliflower, turnips, rutabagas, mustard greens, kohlrabi, kale, and collards. These crop types were selected over the centuries for their different edible parts. Sometimes the flower, like broccoli, or the stems, like kohlrabi, are eaten, and in other cases we eat the leaves, like cabbage, or the roots, like turnips. And it can be surprising which of these crops are in the same species. Rutabagas and Siberian kale look nothing alike, but they're both Brassica napus. Turnips and bok choy are both Brassica rapa, and the diversity of form, function, and flavor within the Brassica oleracea is nothing short of stunning. Kohlrabi, broccoli, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, just to name a few. And the one we're going to look at today is, and we've been looking at these brassicas, the Apollo, the Erica sativa. Well, it doesn't even say that it's a brassica. It's a Erica sativa. Here I'm telling you all about brassicas. I guess because we're getting ready to get into them tomorrow. So I just told you some stuff about brassicas. But here's an Erica sativa. And it's this improved Dutch strain of garden arugula. It must be a brassica. Also known as rocket, is noted for its lack of bitterness and its spicy, large, rounded leaves, which are high in vitamin C. This variety can be harvested 3 to 5 times per sowing, functioning like a cut and come again crop, 40 to 45 days. Okay, and was there anything else? Okay, I think that's probably good. Let's go ahead and close with our song. Thank you all so much for joining me out here in my bamboo. Be sure to do your lesson today. Every hour today, think about it. And do that longer practice morning and evening. As you tell yourself, I choose the second place to gain the first. I choose the second place to gain the first. What seems to be the second place is the first. For all things we perceive are upside down until we listen to the voice. Until we listen to the voice for God. Till we listen to the voice for God. It seems that we will gain autonomy, but by our striving to be separate, and that our independence from the rest of God's creation is the way in which salvation is obtained. Yet all we find is sickness, suffering, and loss and death. This is not what our Father wills, not what our Father wills for us. Nor is there any second to His will, second to His will. To join with His is but to find our own, but to find our own will. And since our will is His, it is Him we must go. It is Him that we must go to recognize our will. I choose the second place to gain the first. I choose the second place to gain the first. There is no will but yours, and I am glad that nothing I imagine. I am glad that nothing I imagine contradicts what you would have me be. It is your will that I be wholly safe, eternally at peace. It is your will that I be wholly safe, eternally at peace. And happily I share that will which you, my Father, gave as part of me. And happily I share that will which you, my Father, gave as part of me. I choose the second place to gain the first. I choose the second place to gain the first. There is no will but yours. There is no will but yours. I choose the second place to gain the first. There is no will but yours. There is no will but yours. I choose the second place to gain the first. I choose the second place to gain the first. And I just, while we were singing, I was thinking, if I was raising some kids right now, and if I'd take any of my grandkids anywhere that I thought was important, I think I'd take them to a nursing home. And I'd let them spend some time with older people that are getting ready to make the crossing. And let them realize the only thing that's important in this world is what we did for love. That's what they all say, you know. So we all realize the only thing you remember is what you did. That the only thing you really wanted to do is it was the loving things. Anyway, go be a light to somebody. Make some cookies or make something. Make some cut up celery sticks with peanut butter. It'd be better for them. Or some apple slices with peanut butter, and take them to the nursing home. Or make some healthy cookies. You'll have to decide what that is. Anyway, I choose the second place to gain the first. That's that selfless service karma yoga. And our word for peace is out of the Seri people of the coastal Sonora, Mexico. And it's Milsax, Ihom, Siljoz. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I choose the second place to gain the first. Peace is Milsax, Ihom, Siljoz. Peace. Milsax, Ihom, Siljoz. I choose the second place to gain the first. Milsax, Ihom, Siljoz.